Been a lot of chat this week about the award, the proposed changes, the fact that grads are going to maybe $93,000, maybe even more, because ACTU wants to put another 4.5% inflation increase into awards. So it might be in like 95,000 by the time these changes roll out. And look, there is an existential business risk now because this has been talked about without being firmed up. If you hire a grad now, you might find in 12 months' time that you can hire them, yeah, great, on like 70K, but in 12 months' time, their wage is going to jump $20,000. And maybe that's okay, maybe that's not okay for you, but it's something I'd be thinking about. And I'd be monitoring this conversation very closely. Now, this change, as I said in the video I shared on Circle with some really, really good data around what young private practitioners are expected to bill and how we can leverage this to the advantage of our clinic. The reality is this is about structural and systemic inequality. The fact is the kitchen aide at my son's daycare, that job is $27 to $33 an hour. It's pretty much the same rate as what a new grad physio on the current award is getting paid. And that is before super. So we're in a pretty ridiculous situation, if you ask me, for something that is a 4 to 6 year degree to be paid the same as a kitchen aide. So there is a lot of anchoring bias around what a grad is worth. And I would say that I wish I could have earned 100 grand when I went straight into private practice year one as a grad in 2009. So I think we have been grossly underappreciated. And I don't think 90K is even good enough, but it is such an enormous step in the right direction for our profession that I think we should be welcoming this with open arms. Now, I'm not saying that that's not going to break a few businesses, but here's why I think that's not a problem. The market for most businesses, so if we're in our little private practice bubble, we think, okay, well, no one can afford this. But the reality is, most businesses aren't MSK private practice anymore. There is a lot of NDIS, aged care, community rehab, whatever, hospital work. Hospital probably doesn't count as a business, but in terms of where the market wage is at the supply side. So if you're a grad going out there looking at jobs on Seek, hey, there's an NDIS job that's going to be offering you 90 grand. There's a job in the hospital, which depending on what the state is, might be offering you a very good wage as well. There's always been aged care jobs. When I graduated, again, there were aged care jobs that you could get 6-figure salaries in. Some of this stuff isn't new. Private practice has managed to get by because there's always been a population of people that want to do, dare I say, real physio work. I'm joking. MSK type work, sports, all the sexy stuff. It turns out private practice isn't really that sexy. You spend most of your time massaging people's bums. But where this is really going wrong, people saying and beating their chest saying, well, we're just not going to pay. We're just not going to hire new grads. Okay, well, how well is your clinic going to do? Maybe year one, you'll get by fine. And year two and year three, well, someone else has hired them and they're happy and they're not going to come and work for you because you said you weren't going to hire new grads. So that's a tricky thing to be putting out into the marketplace. What I would suggest is we look at this from a bell curve analogy. You know how much I love bell curves, and go, right, probably not going to hire 50% of the market because maybe they're not skilled enough to go straight into private practice. But some of those people will find jobs elsewhere, and that's okay. And I would focus my attention on the top 20% of that market. So get the best grads and get them into your practice. Take that risk. I would be happy to take that risk now. I said 3 years ago that we probably need to be paying these grads 90K. This is about 2022 when the market was just peaking. Demand was peaking for physio services and supply was at its absolute shortest. And guess what? A lot of people didn't want to pay more and consequently couldn't hire for months and months and months, and those businesses stagnated. So when markets shift, you've got to be agile with this stuff. Now, if we don't fix pricing in our sector, everything fails. This is market failure time because we have the prices being fixed in a lot of areas like NDIS and like aged care. And yes, I'm actually working with the APA to help resolve some of these price fixes because it's unreasonable, especially now that the floor of wages has been lifted. So we need that lid off. And if you're in a Musk private practice, you've got to make sure that the rates you are charging are more like $250 per hour, approaching 300. I've said for a few years, I think by 2030, the minimum really has to be $300 per hour. And we are all on a journey to get there over the next few years. The sooner, the better. There are clinics that charge more than that even now. The solution, look, There are options. There are always options with hiring. Like I said, I think I would only hire the top 20% of grads, and that is a fairly simple filtering process. I would only hire grads if they're prepared to work full-time, because it's impossible to mentor someone part-time. And I would take those top grads, put them into full-time roles, and go as hard as I can to develop their confidence. Not their clinical skills, their confidence, their ability to talk to patients. I would have them sitting in on as many consults as possible, and I would be spending 2 hours a week with them, focused on their communication and their confidence and making sure they're getting good wins out of what they're doing. And I would take the burden of filling their diary by making sure there's a nice flow of patients, whether we had to lift advertising or whatever. Look, it's risk with capital to say we're going to take these people on, but if you're going to take them on, you need to back them in, and you need to risk more money in the market to try and get more work to them as well. And guess what? That kind of paid advertising client, the kind you get through Google Ads, the acute back pains and whatnot, this is really good new grad work for just cutting their teeth and getting them busy. And this is going to be unique to my practice, definitely, but we used to put grads in around about Christmas time, because the week between Christmas and New Year at our practice was always really busy. In our area, lots of people would come to that area. No one else would be open. It would be slam busy, and people are there for holidays and whatnot. And we'd find January, because we approached it with an optimistic lens, let's make sure anybody who wants to see a physio gets to see them. And guess what? We got the grads busy, and I did this year 1, year 2, year 3 with each grad coming through to cut their teeth and give them the confidence for me to say, hey, I back you. Call me if you need any help, but I'm backing you here. Let's get you in and let's get this working. So by the end of January, they've worked 15 to 25 hours a week to just get themselves started in the soft season. And they hit February ready to open up a full-time diary. That's how you build a caseload really quickly. It only works if you're hiring the top 20% of grads and you are willing to put in the hard work to develop them. Now, the biggest barrier, in my opinion, to new grads actually billing well commercially is we consistently put them down. We consistently say, you're not good enough at this, you're not good enough at that, you're not a good enough clinician. We all had to start somewhere. And look, you're not going to have perfect manual therapy skills. You're not going to have perfect communication, diagnostic skills, etc. But they can develop, and we've got other tools at hand that can help us with our diagnostic reasoning now as well, like AI. You can absolutely use AI if you have a decent threshold, like a degree, to brainstorm, okay, just between consults, not to guide your therapy necessarily, but to at least brainstorm and review things. Like, it's possible to do this stuff, and I would recommend doing it, and I would recommend doing it quickly. The critical thing is what grads can do coming in fresh is they care and they can empathize. And what the market tells us is most people want a physio who cares. They want someone who cares about them, who cares about the outcome. And that's what I coach my grads on more than anything else, is make sure you show your patients that you care and you're willing to go the extra mile for them, because we live in Australia. People aren't that obnoxious. Most people are quite understanding. I get that you're a new grad and you're fresh, but you're so keen and you're so eager to help me. I want to come back and be part of that energy. This is the fundamental thing that goes on when we're seeing therapists. And this is from my own personal experience as a patient, as well as my 16 years of actually being a therapist. When you don't bring good energy to your consults, guess what happens? Patients don't come back. It doesn't matter how good your diagnostic reasoning is. It doesn't matter how good your communication skills are when you're not bringing the kind of energy that makes people want to come back to you. So we can equip our new grads with this skill set from day one, but we have to encourage them. We have to make sure they're operating in a safe environment, and we have to stop saying things like new grads aren't worth 90K. It's just not going to work. The reality is, there are two kinds of clinics at this point in time. There are clinics that can and should and will go down this route, take the risk and get the reward for it. And there are clinics that actually shouldn't. They just shouldn't. They haven't got the infrastructure. They're not capable of doing the mentoring. And you should actually just sit this game out, because like I'm saying, there is no point, if you miss that top 20%, there is no point trying to hire someone from the middle of the road and go, okay, well, we're paying you 90K, so here's your KPIs. It's just not going to work. It's just going to be miserable for all parties. And you're going to find you get to the end of your 6 months with your grad and you've burnt whatever money and you haven't made anything. And you've got a bunch of patients who you now have to explain why you don't have a therapist to set them. Bit harsh, but when it comes to value, when it comes to worth, guess what? A cup of coffee, that you pay $5, $6, $7 for, that takes about 5 seconds to make is worth about 45 cents. Why are people paying for this? Because they want that feeling. They want that nice feeling. They're happy to part with a little bit of money. Guess what? Across the year, people are paying thousands of dollars to get a cup of coffee that they could make at home. So don't tell me people can't afford $130 physio session or $500 worth of physio across a year. This is the reckoning. This is what physiotherapy actually needs. We need to kick up the arse because nobody in our sector wants to raise prices, but it is impossible to get by with award wages potentially going up 20% without raising prices. We need to start paying people ethically. We need to start training people intentionally. We need to have a system so that everybody can come through from university and achieve success in their first, second, and third year out and not be told they're not good enough, they're never going to make it, all this crap, because physio is inherently quite a simple job. You and a patient, you need to connect with that patient. You need to build trust, rapport. They need to feel valued, heard, and that you have a path forward for them. That is fundamentally it. It doesn't matter how technical it is. We even know manual therapy doesn't have to be perfect AP mobs on C3. Maybe you hit C4 by accident. And guess what? You still might get a good result for people because there is so much more going on contextually. So if your model breaks under award wages going up 20 to 25%, which many do, it is time to rethink your business model. And the time to do it is now before these changes come in. It is too late when the award changes come in and you go, okay, I've just lost a team member. I need to hire someone. I don't know if we can actually make this work. We need to start thinking about this now, and you know where to come. Thanks for watching this video on the award changes and what you can expect from new graduates coming through. Now, if you've come this far, honestly, I think it's time to get on my Circle platform. There's a heap of good content on there that's going to be extremely useful for you. The next step, let's get together, come and join the people community. This is where physio and allied health clinic owners get together, talk about our challenges, talk about our wins, talk about how we can get through these changes working together. Hope to see you in there. Thanks for watching once again. Don't forget to subscribe. Cheers.